the US, Sweden. Tina says hello, everyone. Yeah, oh, I hope you get, yeah, you'll do your best for painting today. Jason says, good morning, friends. We have Janice from the Niagara Falls, Carol from Illinois, Leslie Ann from Port of Spain. We have Kit from Hong Kong. We have Tina. We have Jaya. Greetings from Australia. We have people from the UK and here from Ciao Ciao da Roma. Yvonne says hi from the Netherlands. We have Jane from Virginia. Roland from Pennsylvania, Karen from Minnesota. We have people from Quebec, the US, different parts of the USA. Karen from Ireland, Maria from Buenos Aires, Argentina, Teresa from Holland, Ingela from Borensberg, Sweden, Kathy from Vermont, people from Spain, Umbria, Canada, España, Chicago, sunny Ireland, Switzerland, and Venture from Norway, Germany, Birgit. We have Murthy from India. You see, we're all from so many parts of the world. France, Latvia, Italy, Denmark, Italy, Poland, Rome, Mumbai, Scotland, Delhi, Iceland, California. Wow, it's amazing. It's beautiful. So many hellos. Thank you so much. Gibraltar. So many hellos in the chat. Thank you so much for writing your hellos and from where you are from. And my name is Hannah, and I am sitting in Sweden, and together with Pasqualino, Fracasso, I have the pleasure to deep dive even more into watercolor. And Pasqualino, where are you sitting right now?
Hello to everybody. I'm from Italy, from the north of Italy. Into the mountains near France and Switzerland. And so I live in a cold place, but very natural place. So for me, it's a big inspiration, and I'm very happy to 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 be here and to have all these people from all over the world. So it's an honor. Okay, thank you very much.
I see that you have water in the painting you have behind you. Is that from the area where you live, or do you need to travel to reach the water?
No, I travel a lot, and I try always to transform my experience also in my inspiration for my work, because I try always to catch something from the place where I make my journeys. And for example, this is from France, from the Côte d'Azur, France. And so for me, art is also to tell a story about my experience and my all my travels. So yes, a lot of different places from all over the world.
So we get to travel when we see your artworks. We get to travel
Yes.
with you. Wonderful. And we have lots of more hellos in the chat. Millie says hello. Millie from Spain, a very big thank you, Pascalina, for the book on lifting. It's such a fantastic technique. Ooh, and she can't wait to see you in action. And speaking of that, the theme of today is actually the power of lifting, simplifying your watercolor with Pascalino Fracasso. And if you don't know what lifting is, maybe you can share, Pascalino, how you use that and how that makes such a big change in
Yes.
your watercolor experience.
Yes, this is a different approach from traditional watercolor, because in watercolor, the traditional technique is to add some layers, some washes to create the right values, making some darker and darker. So you start from very transparent and light washes to arrive to the dark. Okay. On the contrary, I think it can be very interesting to develop in a different way with the lifting technique. I mean, to start from very dark color or darker color and remove the color to obtain some intermediate values, or we can also obtain some lights. So I think it's very important, not only as a technique to work on. For example, for me is the main technique. So I think only also in this way. But it's also very important to study watercolor, because it lets you to correct your works, because in watercolor it's very difficult to correct, to say, oh, I don't like this, but now I lost all my lights. with the lifting technique, you can adjust your composition and to find what are your mistakes and how to adjust them to obtain the right composition.
Super excited for this. So let's dive into the logistics of this workshop. So first and foremost, this workshop will last for about 1.5 to 2 hours. We never know exactly how long in advance. And please use the chat to ask your questions and to support each other. And I will do my best to keep an eye out for your questions, and we will answer some of them along the way and some of them at the very end of the workshop, where we have a Q&A session. And if this is your first time with us, just know that it can be very challenging to paint along with Pasqualino when he is painting in his usual speed. So just know that you might want to watch now and do it again later, or you might want to try to paint now and watch it again later. You will have access to this recording for a limited time, so you can do this again. And my question that I want to ask before we start painting, has anyone here ever tried lifting in watercolor while you paint? And if so, what did you find challenging about it? Or maybe you're trying it for the first time today. Please share your experience when it comes to lifting in watercolor in the chat. And I will take a look at the chat in a couple of minutes again. So what we're going to do today is that we're going to see how to create light out of opaque wash using lifting techniques and learn to evoke emotion through shapes and contrast. We will also be introducing the brand new Pasqualino Fracasso's course at Artefacto, and we have the Q&A session at the end of the workshop. So that's what we have to look forward to. We have lots of yeses in the chat. So people who have tried lifting, from Sabrina, Shavon, Gail, Mentra has not tried it. Ushi has. Catherine, Iris, Kathy, Powell, Deb, Hannah have tried it a bit. Karen, yes, I live. Jackie and Peg says yes. Oh, Sabina says yes, the paper is important. Oh, yes, lifting is necessary for me, since Cynthia. So lots of different answers and many, many, many yeses here. Oh, and Cynthia says lifting, sometimes I rip the paper. So these are super important aspects. Tanya says, I usually forget there is such a way as lifting. We have other answers here. Yes, very much. And Karen says, I often lift for sky to make clouds. Fee says, I love lifting. It works like magic. Oh, and Debbie says, I use it all the time to retrieve light. So lots of questions. And Leslie Ann says, first time using lifting. Ooh. And Stina says, a little, only when something went wrong. So now we will learn how to use it even when something went right, because we wanted this to happen. Oh, and to fix mistakes. Oh, you need the right brush. That's the other aspect. Paper brush. And then we have the next aspect that we're going to talk about as well. Yeah, you need the right brush. Lifting when dry is easy, but harder when the paint is wet, says Feroz. Interesting. So many answers in the chat. And Karen says, biggest challenge for lifting is finding and using the best brush. Sabrina says, lifting for highlights. Ooh, so many great points already. So as you already know by now, is that our instructor, Pasqualino Fracasso, is great at lifting in watercolor, but let's get to know him a bit more before we dive in. He's an internationally acclaimed Italian watercolor artist, invited to teach workshops, demonstrations, and courses worldwide, from the US to China. He's also a signature member of the American Watercolor Society, the Italian Watercolor Society, and the National Watercolor Society in the USA. And he's an multiple award winner in prestigious competitions such as the 147th AWS International Exhibition and the 95th NWS International Exhibition in Los Angeles. And also he has exhibited at leading international events, including the Royal Institute of Watercolor Paintings, Qingdao Watercolor Biennial, and International Watercolor Masters in the UK. And Pasqualino is known for his eclectic and experimental approach to watercolor, blending classical techniques with innovative visions and materials and techniques. And there's a lot of emotion and vibrancy and energy in his works that sometimes feel like he's using watercolor in a way that we're not really used to seeing watercolor being used. You can see here an example of the vibrancy of his artworks. Most importantly, I love painting with watercolor. I love experimenting, playing, getting frustrated, and sketching with water and color. So let's take a look at some of your examples here, Pasqualino. And first and foremost, what is it that draws you to painting? What is that for you? Why do you do it? What is your philosophy as a painter?
Well, for me, painting is a way to. There are two goals to aim in my artistic activity. The first one is for me because it's very important to make something and to bring out something that there is inside me. I started painting. I started studying the technique, but when I was skilled about the technique, I tried to bring on paper my visions of the world. It means to try I love to bring a kind of energy, okay, to touch the people with colors, with strong impact, strong vision of something that I like, something that I like and that I like, because these are all my paintings are a part of my world, and I want to share this vision, this my language with all the world. So this is the first aim. The second part of my philosophy is always also to try to change something in the people. Change something, it means to bring the people to see the everyday life with different eyes. I mean, the challenge for as an artist is not to make a great picture about great photos,
Yeah.
something very classical. When you have a great photo, you can say, I can make a very beautiful painting. No, is to the challenge is to make to bring the beauty of the something you don't see, or you can say it's not important, but when you make it in the right way, you can say, wow, but this thing that I can see every day is really stunning if I can see that it with the right eyes. So to really to transform the reality in something really beautiful, because the reality is very beautiful. So this is my philosophy. Always try to paint something is not so beautiful,
Yeah.
but to make it very interesting, not only beautiful.
Ah, thank you for that. So you're bringing beauty and magic into the perceiver's eyes, so we can see the world with more beauty without having to only paint the most beautiful subjects and from the most beautiful photographs. That's such a valuable thing. And as we can see here, you apparently know how to simplify, you apparently know how to use color to make the world more vibrant and technique to make it feel interesting. And we would love to hear a little bit about how you came to watercolor painting. Could you share briefly what your journey was like and what made you fall in love with watercolor of all mediums?
Well, I started in watercolor 20 years ago, and before my hobby was my passion was music, but I played in a rock band. Then we stopped with the rock band, and so I have been always drawing during all my life. So after this experience, I would like to draw, but mainly to paint. And I started with watercolor because it was very easy, and you didn't need a lot of time, because I would like to make some little paintings of my travels, like um, a diary of my travels. So I started making little sketches, and when I discovered the magic of watercolor, it means to play with water, to control and not control the water. I say that yes, this is my technique because it's very fast, and with a few brush strokes you can evoke, you can communicate, you can touch a lot of people with a lot of vision, with telling a lot of stories. And so I tried this technique and I felt in love with this magic. And I started to study the contemporary and modern and also the artists of the past and studying and I try to achieve to always to a next level, to a higher level.
Wonderful. And you're an engineer as well, so you're an engineer and a watercolor artist.
Yes, I studied as a aerospace engineer, and now I have I stopped with my engineer career. I am a teacher at school. I teach electronic and mechanic, and the other part of the day, one part is to teach at teenagers, and the other part I'm an artist and who travel, who make the artist life. So yes,
And I've
it's a
already read in the chat that you're a great teacher, so I think it's a good thing that you have the teacher experience. It's going to help us today. So thank you for that.
thank you, thank you.
And so far we saw some nature images, but you also paint cityscapes where you do not only copy the photos. And this is something that we're going to see you do today in action. It's going to be fascinating to watch your process. When I watch this, I feel emotions that are like in between watercolor and an opaque medium. So it's like this in between world that you created. It feels both watercolor and something else. So super excited to learn more about that. And Pasqualino has also been part of different publications and of books and magazines, such as The Art of Watercolor and Master of Watercolor, The Art of Watercolor, Watercolor Artist, Watercolor Complete. So he's been in the world both physically and in written form. And here's a quotation. At this stage of my artistic journey, I try to express emotions and inner states. I capture visions that, through shapes, light, and color, aim to open a door to something I have felt and invite the viewer to step inside. Beautiful. And some of our students have already had the chance to meet Pasqualino and experience his unique painting approach and teaching style in action. So Marie writes, very interesting lesson. It was fascinating to see how Pasqualino works. Amazing. Thank you, Pasqualino. Very simple yet so beautiful. Thanks. So type a plus in the chat if you've already had the chance to meet Pasqualino and paint together with him. Here are some student paintings from working with Pasqualino. And for those who have not yet met Pasqualino, we have a unique opportunity today. This is an online workshop for everyone who's been dreaming of breaking some of the watercolor rules and stepping beyond conventional thinking and discovering some new amazing approaches to watercolor painting. And as I mentioned previously, today we will open limited enrollment for Pasqualino's brand new course. And only those of you who are watching this live, while it's still live streamed, will receive the best deal. So if you feel stuck trying to paint scenes with too many details, you want to create light and atmosphere, are tired of overworking and wish to master lifting techniques, and struggle with composition or crave guidance from a true international master, then you're in the right place. So the advantages of Pasqualino's approach is that we get the freedom to correct mistakes because we learn how to use the lifting techniques to remove paint after it dries. So we get that second chance. And you get to paint from dark to light, which is an opposite approach to many other watercolor approaches, which creates more bold expression and builds light with lifting and opaque color. And he also emphasizes form, value, and composition rather than illustrating objects, which simplifies and help you move away from over detailing. And then we have the semi-abstract style with clear impact, which helps us evoke atmosphere and memory and not just depict scenes. There's also this structured analytical engineer mindset when it comes to explaining these things. So Pasqualino can offer you a logical step-by-step method that makes even experimental techniques approachable and understandable. So this is wonderful if you want to free yourself from a sense of rigidity and just get more freedom and find your personal style in that freedom. So if you're ready, write a yes in the chat, and it's time to dive in. Could you share with us, Pasqualino, what materials we need to make your style work?
Yes, well, very important is I think for the lifting technique, it's very important the paper because the cotton paper is very hard to remove the color. So with the cellulose paper, you can achieve a very important effect. You can arrive to lift the color, remove the color, and obtain like the white. So, for example, I use two kind of paper. The first one is Anemule Le Rouge, and also Canson XL watercolor. They are good cellulose paper. Then there are also other cellulose papers, but the quality it depends always from the quality. There are some papers that let the pigment and the water to be absorbed by the paper, and they are good. Other kind of paper are not so good, so when you make the second layer, second wash, you can remove also the first layer. So be careful with the kind of paper you use. You can try also other paper, maybe they are good like these ones. The brushes, I try to use every kind of brush, every kind of tool to create shapes and to paint, because I think gesturality is very important. So also to use the brushes in a different way, in different brushes, it's very important. I think to experiment, to find your personal favorite tool is very important. So I use every kind of brush. For example, synthetic, natural, flat, round, every kind. And the colors, I use a lot of colors. There is my palette produced by Roman Schmal Aquarius brand. But then you can use, there are a lot of other brands. It's very important. I tested these colors and I find them very well, so I'm using this, but you can use also other brands. It's not a problem. I use every kind of color. I mean, natural, transparent colors and also opaque colors. I use granulating colors and not granulating colors. So it's very important to use every kind of color, because any color, any pigment has different features, and it's very important not to make a boring watercolor with all the same effects. And pay attention only to the staining color that like phthalo colors, for example, that are very difficult to remove from paper. So I have to be very careful with this kind of colors. So when you use them, you have to use in the right amount to not be able to remove them in a second times.
Thank you for that introduction. And as we can see, the approach is already completely different from many other artists to say it has to be cut on paper so you can paint many layers. But your approach is about not painting very many layers, but instead painting a layer and then lifting. So it's the completely opposite advice. So thank you so much for sharing that before we start, so that if someone realizes that I cannot get the same effect, we know a bit why that might have been the case. So today we will work on this urban landscape to unlock a new mindset. I don't need to outline, I can evoke, and it's gonna be a fascinating journey. So I'm gonna hand it over to you now, Pasqualino, and everyone who wants to paint along, please go ahead and do that. And also keep in mind that it might be a bit hard. You might not get exactly the same results as Pasqualino today.
No problem. Okay, I show you my okay. Well, first of all, when I start with the painting, for me it's always very important to make some sketches. You can see here There are some little sketches that I make. They are monochromatic sketches, and you can see here there are some examples, and they are very important because before to start, you need to understand where you want to arrive. I know it's not only just only a composition, but it's also to think about the format. For example, vertical, square, or panoramic format. To work on the values, and so I try to make a lot of very little sketches, and I think it's important also to work on little sketches because you have to start to force your brain to think in a different way. You have to try to simplify your subject. And if you start also to make the sketches with a lot of details, you will fall on the same mistake during the painting to make too much. So try to make some little sketching in a very fast way. For example, my process is to make a sketch in 5 minutes, at most 10 minutes, not much more, because you have to think very fast and not to make too much. So this is the first very important step. In this case, you can see the, the picture from we start is a little bit complicated if we think about all the details, but we have to try to understand which are the main part of your paintings. We can see a very strong shadow on the bottom part of the picture, but we have also to try to connect the shadows, the darker part, with the other darker part. So you can't have only one very dark shape. So when I make this, I always try to emphasize the contrast, emphasize the layers, the values. Okay, so for me it's very important the silhouette on the upper part of the buildings and these strong shadows in the lower part. So I start with the drawing, because for me the drawing is the creative part of my process. And my way of drawing is very particular, because I always leave the pencil of the paper, because it's important to find different shapes, different lines from the picture. So sometimes to leave the freedom of your hand, of your pencil, to make something unpredictable, is not only to make the outline of the picture, can be very interesting. So let's start. Okay. Well,
Could you just a little bit explain what you are looking for when you are sketching this? Because apparently you have a process. Is it possible to share that in words?
yes. Um, I always do before to start. I always think about what there is that is touching me about colors, about details, and I have always to force my hand and also my brain to say I don't have to make everything. So when, for example, when I start to make some windows, I start when I stop, when I come back, and I make some other windows. So it's very important not to draw everything, but to start always from what is touching you from this scene. So for me, it's very important to understand this is a building, so not to make something really abstract, but to give the idea where we are talking about a building making some windows. Okay, also the silhouette of the building is very, very important. So what there is inside the building, it's not so important. You have just to show some meaningful elements like windows, like doors, but not too much. You can also draw more than the painting, but if you start if you start from the drawing to reduce the details, your brain, your way of painting is starting to simplify your composition. So it's very important the main element, for example in this case, then the right proportion to the other elements. For example, here we have the building on the background, and now it's when you make urban landscape, it's very important the perspective, but because the perspective give you the right movement to your painting. So when you make also the building, for example, now we have to make this strong building with a strong perspective on the left. Okay, it's very important to find the point where all the perspective is focused. For example, here, and create like a grid that make the right perspective of your painting. Okay, so here is the perspective of this building. I can start creating something like this, and then inside this grid I will make all the element of the building. Okay, for example, here, okay, here I can start making some marks about the roof. Okay, some windows, but just to simplify also the windows, not to make all the window with all the outline, just some lines or some shapes that give the idea of the architecture of these elements, something like this. And you see, I make a lot of lines, and then at a certain point, I marks the main elements of my drawing. Not everything, but some lines. Because if always, when you paint or when you draw, if you paint and draw everything, it became very representative, very illustrative. On the contrary, if you lose something to the imagination of the viewer, the painting, the impact of your painting is very, very stronger. Okay. And you see, when I go far from the focus point, from the focal point is here. I try to reduce all the elements, all the details, everything. Okay, and then in this picture, it's always very important. It's very, very important the shadow on the bottom part. So I try to make some lines to better understand what's the better outline. of the, you can see I make a lot of shapes and then I will choose the right one. Okay. Okay.
We had a question from Janice who asks, what city is this painting of?
This is Rennes in France, in the north, in the Bretagne, in the Brittany of France. Uh, is Rennes. The name is Rennes. Yes, I went for an exhibition, a workshop, and so I passed 2 days, and I love this city in the north of France because the architecture was very old. It was very interesting, and so also for me, this painting, this subject is very inspirational because it's not only a good picture, a good photo, but when you live this experience, you have inside you also, for example, the weather. It was cold, even if there was the sun. There wasn't so much people, so there is a particular atmosphere that I want to try to 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 put on the paper. So I think these are the main elements, and I all a solution about my watercolor very often is to leave the sky white because I want to create something more graphic, but in this case I can just play with some shapes to create also something with a very light pencil. I just create some shapes also on the on the sky. Okay, because when I compose my painting, it's very important to think about how all the shapes, all the values are connected each others. So to create some clouds, some very also soft clouds on the sky can bring the direct the viewers to the main focal point. So if I make some clouds in this direction, the eye of the viewer is going to the focal point also in this direction. So it's very important always to create some elements that create a stronger composition, okay, that move the eyes into the painting. So I think this is good to start about drawing, not too much, but the main elements. So the proportion and the perspective in an urban landscape, in a landscape in general, is very important. And as you can see, I choose this very panoramic landscape because I love to make something different from the classical three-quarter format. So I can start with painting. I will start from the darkest part. Because why? Because I think in a painting, the painting is like a symphony. Okay, you have all the symphony is made by a lot of elements. In the painting is made by texture, by the values, the colors, by lines, geometric lines, a lot of things. But there is always the main element is in the symphony is the melody of the symphony, and in the painting there is like some main elements that create the composition, create the figurative elements of your painting. Sometimes is the melody is the darker part of the painting. Sometimes it is the light part. In this case, I think is the darker part. Mainly the roof, the silhouette of the mainland of the main building is very important, but also the the shadow on the lower part is very important because it create the movement. Because if you make only this part, the composition is not so strong. But if you start from here, you can arrive at the focal point here and then here. You don't create only one focal point, but uh, a lot of elements that bring your eyes all around the painting. So let's start with the darker part of this painting. Okay. It's very important not just to color a drawing, but really to use your gestuality. I mean, don't paint like this, but try to make some movement with your brush that create something less illustrative. Okay.
We have a question here what colors you are using. Do you remember what colors you used to mix?
Yes, this is a ready-made color made with free pigment. Okay, I use two color for this. I use Aquarius Violet or Shadow Violet by Aquarius Colors, but they are the same of mixing the three primary colors. I mean, blue ultramarine, um, um, permanent rose, and yellow cadmium. I love to use this combination of color because when you add some water, you will see the colors are going to separate to create some nuances, very, very, very interesting. Okay, so I love to use not only one color to make something dark, but to use a lot of colors. So you see, it's very important to make some lines, not to just paint too slow to make some little brush strokes, but try to create some touches. Okay. I leave the color a little bit, the time to dry a little bit, and I start with the other part. For example, here I add also some ultramarine blue, more ultramarine blue because it's a granulating color. Okay. And I had also a warm color in this part. For example, I can add some burnt umber, okay, to create also variation in this color.
Now we have a few more questions. The first one is your paper flat or is it at an angle? Is it a little bit inclined? The second question is, have you pre-wetted the surface of the paper at all, or is it completely dry when you start painting?
Okay, now I work flat because I need to move the color in all the direction. Now you will see. I want to keep the color here in this place, and then to move the color with the water. And I work on dry paper. No, I didn't wet the paper before. Okay.
And
So
then the
now
final question now is, which paper are you using today? Is it the Hahnemühle version or the Canson version?
Hahnemühle version with Le Rouge of Hahnemühle. Okay. Now I add some red color, because you see there is also the red color, and I will add this color when the previous color, the dark color is still wet. Okay, because I want to mix the two color together. So okay. And sometimes I just add only some water. For example, here I just adding a little bit of water, not color, but I try to connect all the shape together. And it's not important to to color everything, you know. Sometimes I let some white spaces, some white blank spaces, because I think it's important to um, create something more vibrant about color. You can create some nuances that if you put the color everywhere, you can achieve this kind of effect. Okay. Okay. Now I will add something here. Okay. I have a very strong color. I want to create a transition of color. So I use some blue royale color, very light, like a cerulean, but a little bit more opaque. But I use a lot of water just to create the right nuances. You can see here. I don't like too much this line, so I can reduce the color. And I just take a little bit of color from here. Okay. Okay. As first wash, you see, I made the darker elements that for me are very, very important. But always to try to not be too much geometric, too much detail. You can see, you can understand that there are some windows. You can understand here there is a strong shadow, but don't say too much. Try always to break your shapes and your work. If you make everything all at once, it became I don't know, boring. On the contrary, if you make one part and then you will see after, you can add something more after, it became more interesting because you can see in watercolor all the elements that are connecting each other. So is the vision, the style, the impact of your painting is stronger. So for me, it's very important. Even if I would like to make more, I have to stop and say, yes, I can make more, but I just wait. I will make it after. So you have also the time to not paint everything and everywhere. Okay.
What do you say? Do you want to give it time to dry or do you want us to move on? What would you prefer, Pasqualino?
Uh, I can I just try I just dry the main part, and I can give also if you want one more wash about this part of the painting with the other color to build the first structure of the painting.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will use now the air dryer, even if it's not a good solution, but to make it faster, I have to use the air dryer. So I remove the excess of water. Okay, and I can start with the air dryer. Okay, so the first phase of a painting for me is just to create the right structure of the painting. I mean, the darker are values, the intermediate values that will make now, and then making darker intermediate, I will obtain also the light values of my painting. So now we'll make the intermediate values, and I try always also in this part to connect different elements. So I will not paint until the edge of the dark, but I try to go over so I can connect the different part. So let's start. Now I will use ochre and goethite. Goethite is like a very dark ochre. I like this kind of color because it let me to create also a little bit of granulation on the light colors. And always not to paint by objects, but just by shape. Okay, for example, in this case, I use also a little bit of yellow maple here, because after I will remove the colors, so I prefer to use some opaque colors. Okay. I continue. I just leave the color a little bit being absorbed by the paper. Okay. And now I just add some water to move the color. So here. Okay, now I can continue in this direction. I create here a gray color made with a little bit of royal blue, a little bit of red that I used before. Okay. A little bit also of burnt sienna. Okay, this is the main structure. After I will add some colors, some to make it something darker, and I will remove some colors to create the right all the right values, because I want to arrive to have at least 5 different values, and I will create some other shadows to create a right composition of darks and lights to create the right volume. Okay, I just add a little bit of color here. Okay. And a little bit of color here on the roof, on the background. Okay. Yes, I think this is good. I just leave a color to try to make the second part after. Okay.
Thank you, Pasqualino. Is it time to let it dry on its own now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Then you can switch back your camera. And we had a question from Francesca. We have received many questions, but we will take some of them at the very end as well. But Francesca asks, your pigments look very soft and creamy. Is that a quality of that particular brand that you're using, would you say?
No, I think extra fine. The professional pigments are always very, very, very good. If you use not watercolor study watercolors, but the professional colors, you can achieve this kind of color. Aquarius are very good. I like this brand, but also the other brands are very, very good. So I think it's not so important the brand, but to use really professional colors. And in this case, to achieve a more creamy color, sometimes I use some opaque colors like yellow Naples or royal blue.
And we had a question also what the paper thing that you removed some paint with, some excess water, was that a toilet paper rolled up in a little pen?
Yes, yes, they're Kleenex, because you need a very, very thin paper. You can't use the kitchen paper. I mean, because you need some very, very thin paper that can absorb a lot of water, and
Quickly,
it's
without
just to not
pressing.
leave too much color on the cellulose, too much water on the cellulose paper.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna leave this to dry. We have some questions that we will take at the end,
Okay,
because I wanted you to be able to paint a little bit as well. And some of the questions that people asked will be answered when you continue painting. So I
okay,
also, it's a good thing to leave some of them. So we'll see which one you answer while you finish painting, what
okay,
you choose to live in, what you choose to do with different parts of the painting. So while you continue painting and finishing your piece or taking notes of what you learned, we are gonna move on. And in the second part of the workshop, we will keep shaping the scene, adding texture, contrast, and depth using Pasqualino's approach and his lifting techniques and the dark to light approach. So stay with us to learn that. And now we're going to talk about how to create a change in your watercolor painting style with these three steps. The first one is learn to simplify the scene and paint from forms and impressions, so shapes and impressions, not just objects. And the second one is master strong composition by reducing unnecessary details. And the third one is explore and develop your unique style through bold experimental techniques. And these are things that we have already seen Pasqualino do himself, but it might be a good idea to break this down a bit and talk about it before we start painting again. So that's what we're gonna do. So if you're ready to explore these three steps in practice guided by a world-renowned watercolor artist, we welcome you to actually join the brand new course From Dark to Light, a different approach to watercolor landscape with Pasqualino Fracasso, and take your creative process to a whole new level. And this is a course that will suit artists who already have basic watercolor painting skills and they want to try a different, unusual approach to watercolor and develop more creativity, and also be able to make a strong emotional impact with their composition using silhouettes, light, and shadows, and learn how to correct the painting to paint in a more loose, relaxed way and feel free to experiment without having to get it right at the first go. And also learn how to avoid overworking and keep their watercolors fresh by reducing details and by reducing the number of brush strokes that you need. And we're going to talk about this. Get inspired by this. If you want to continue, you can do so. Either way, I hope we will learn some wonderful things while we walk our way through these three different steps. The first one is early morning in Padua, where we focus on simplifying architecture. And yeah, could you please share a bit about what the purpose of this particular lesson is, Pasqualino?
yes. In urban landscape, you have usually you have a lot of details, so it's very important to understand which of these all these details they are very important for your painting. So to understand, for example, through my eyes, what are the main elements to put on your paintings. So you don't have to simplify too much, but just give the right elements to understand immediately the scene, the subject. So I will work on very classic urban landscape. It's not like New York, but it's a very normal city like Padua. And in this case, we have the architectural elements like windows, the lights, the line of the on the streets. So all how to put all these elements in the right way in your painting. Always to thinking about some shapes that can give an idea of an object, of multiple objects, not just to try to make all these elements like objects, because it's very important to think about the first impact. So when you paint too much, too many objects, too many details, you lose you become too very illustrative, and it's your work is like amateur work. So if you are not hyperrealistic painters, so it's very important to try to simplify and understand what to simplify, working on values, colors, and main details.
And what I can see here also is that you really choose to view the entire image as one image instead
Yeah.
of having one house, one road, one street, one this, one that. Everything ties together, which is such a big part of your approach, that you see it as a whole and not as individual parts of a puzzle. There are not these lines and these sharp lines all over the place. There's a lot of fluidity that adds some atmosphere even to urban landscapes, that we also saw in your own artworks, that you had that fluidity in any kind of scene, that there are not ton of harsh lines, but there is this space to breathe in your paintings.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, connection, I think, is the main work of the painting. Try always to create some connection, and not as you just told, that to make some objects attached each other, but just to create the right flow, the right mood, by creating something. Is all everything is connected. Okay, but you can also imagine all these part like separated, but they are connected.
Thank you for that. And then we move on to a very vibrant scene. We can see that there are some different techniques that you use here. It's a very different subject. What are the specific aspects of this lesson that you want to share with us today?
Okay, in this subject is a subject that I love, because is Alpine Village is my world, because I live in this kind of village into the Alps, and we will work on opaque colors, because with opaque colors is it's easier to remove, to use the lifting technique, and we will use lifting technique not only to correct some mistakes, but also to create some textures, some details. So in this case, it's very important to use the transparent watercolor and opaque watercolor, and to mix together these two techniques with the lifting technique. So I think it's very interesting, because you can use this approach in many different subjects, not only in the landscape.
So here we also learn more how to use our paints consciously, which paints to choose for what, and how to combine them. And create that sense of vibrancy that you said, that opaque colors is part of this brilliant green that you have here.
Yeah.
Thank you for those tips that you share with us already now. And let's move on to lesson 3, Mediterranean Visions, which definitely has this not overworked approach. It's very much a fresh approach. What do you think and how do you choose when it comes to a subject like this? How do you choose what to include and what to leave out when it comes to details?
Yes, in this subject, I think is like a synthesis of the other works, because we will work on perspective, because a strong perspective is very important on a painting, and we will mix the dark symphony, the dark melody. So the dark strong elements with the light strong elements, and to create the right connection, the right flow between the two elements, it's very important. And I think it's very interesting also to think about the trees, because in this case we work on the trees and how to leave some white space, like the branches, like the fences, and many other elements, not to leaving from the beginning this white, these blank spaces, but obtaining these elements with the lifting technique. So it's very important, and also how to reduce all the elements. You can find all the bushes, all the trees, all the trunks, to reduce, to create a good composition with the main elements.
Thank you so much for sharing this. I think that so many people, including myself, or from my perspective, we travel to these places and we see the beauty in them, and then we take a photo and it doesn't look as pretty as we feel that it does. And we realize that it requires a translation, it requires a simplification. But what techniques, how to choose? So this feels like your course really teaches us how to see this reference and then translate it into something very, very different, with much more freshness and atmosphere and vibrancy and ease, in comparisons to those reference photos. So thank you for giving us a glimpse of that today. And the results of this course is that you will learn a unique approach combining painting from dark to light and the lifting technique, and also discover how to evoke light, depth, and emotion with minimal brushwork. And also see how to simplify complex references, create structure, and paint with confidence and more sense of freedom. Learn the rules of a good composition and significantly improve all your artworks, and also understand how to correct a painting and get a lovely result even if something went wrong. And the final one, elevate your artworks using strong colors and creating impressionistic patterns and having that fresh end results. And if you feel that, yes, I really want to do this, let me share that there are two learning formats, or two different pricing plans that you get to choose from. So we have the premium plan, which includes everything that we just shared, which is the standard plan. And it also includes written feedback by a professional watercolor curator. So those are the different plans that we have. So if you want written feedback within the first 75 days on the 3 paintings and also on the final creative task, if you want that individual written feedback from our wonderful curator, then the premium plan is for you. And individual written feedback, the benefit of that is that we tend to see that our students get much faster progress because personalized feedback targets your strengths and areas for improvement. It also helps you refine your techniques and creativity, and direct interaction ensures guidance, and that guidance is specific to your work. And if you are like me, that will also keep you accountable and be one of those motivators that makes you want to do the best that you possibly can, which can make all the difference. So there are only 30 spots available on the premium plan because you get that individual additional feedback. So this is a unique opportunity to learn from a master and also receive individualized feedback from a professional watercolor artist. And right now, we have an exclusive offer on this course. So right now, there is a discount happening. So the standard plan is $99 and the premium plan is $109. And an exclusive special addition, special discount is for those of you who are watching us right now while we are still live streaming. So if you join us on this course while we're still live, you will have an additional 10% discount, which means that these will be the prices if you join us now. So if you want to have that additional feedback, make sure to join us now. And either way, you're super welcome to join us. There are hundreds of watercolor courses, and this one teaches you something you won't find anywhere else because Pasqualino's approach is wonderful and unique. So you will find it by scrolling down, and underneath below this video there will be a button that you can press to join us. And now it's actually time for us to finish the watercolor painting and see what happens to this watercolor. We are super, lots of questions involved. What's to come? What can we expect? So that's what we're gonna find out now.
Okay, so let's continue. I just have to dry the bit because it's not completely dry. When I Okay, we are ready. Now it is completely dry. It's very important that every time you work, you come back on your painting. The painting must be very, very dry because if you want to remove something or to add something on cellulose paper, if the painting is still wet, you will remove too much. So it's very important to start from a dry paper. What I do now, I have the structure. I want to create more connection between create some elements with intermediate or light values with the lifting technique. I have just to add something more to create the light connection. We are talking about composition. In this case, you see you have these two strong parts, and but yeah, they are a little bit disconnected. So what I will put to create more connection, I will add some elements, architectural elements here to connect this shadow in this direction. And I create another shadow or something a little bit darker here to connect this part with this part. So let's make this value, this wash. In this case, I just work with okay, with a very transparent wash, not so dark, but I think it's important to put this wash, this value. Okay. Okay. Then I don't like this blank space here, so I add something here. I always put some color and then I create the transition. So I leave a little bit the color here, and then I will create the right transition, the right connection with the other part. And while there is these washes are drawing, I try to make. You see, I always try to make some shapes that give an idea of something, but I I always also break the shapes. Don't leave all the elements of the shapes so too much when well defined. Now we can connect this with this one. Okay. And this, I just can add something darker. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now I can dry. Yes. Okay. Now we are ready to remove the color to create some very interesting effects. So I use a Kleenex. So let's start, for example, from here to create a light on the background. So I put some water. Okay. Then I create some windows here, for example. Okay. Okay. Then I want to create a transition between this value and the lights. Here I want to create a line on the street. Here I can create also here. Okay. Here I can create a texture. with some vertical lines. Okay. I want just to create a texture. Okay. Now I can add some dark values. For example, I create some windows. Okay. Also here, I add some. Okay. Then I don't like too much this very, very strong light here because I have also the white on the sky. So I add just a little bit of very, very transparent color. And I can use something like the um, royal blue. Very, very soft wash of just to reduce the white. Okay. And when it's still a little bit wet, I can add some. Okay. I'm working on composition. I did the right some right elements to create. You can see the connection between all the different part of the painting. And instead of creating a blue sky, I just can create some clouds on the sky because I love this very graphic composition where you can find the outline, the silhouette of the city. So I think it can be very interesting to make something here, but I will make it on wet with the wet technique. So I can wet the sky. So let's try. Yes, I think we can make it, we can leave this like this. So you see that my approach is very based on gesturality, on move the color, the pigment on on the paper, and not trying to make some or just very defined elements, but just to make a shape like this that give an idea of a window. Okay, and always to create the right connection between the elements, trying to emphasize in this case in an urban landscape the perspective and the main elements we can find in a city, like the geometries, like the shadows and the contrast between lights and shadows.
Thank you, Pasqualino. We have lots of comments in the chat. Let me read some of them. We have Preben writing loose and beautiful works. We have Patrice Vive de Chaufleur. And Mercedes asks, does he allow cauliflowers to appear? What are your thoughts on the cauliflowers? Yes or no? What are your thoughts on
Well,
those
I think
appearing on the paper?
cauliflower, um, you can use cauliflower like an interesting effect. So it's we always think about you don't have to leaves, you create some cauliflowers. Cauliflowers can, if you can manage it very well, it can be a texture. So there are many artists that use cauliflowers like a very important background or important effect to create an idea of I don't know, a bush, all the wall, or something like this. So you many times also the mistakes can become very interesting solutions. So try always to be an open mind about this, about watercolor. Try always to not think about I don't like it, I have to correct it. Try always to see the things in a different way. For example, cauliflower in this case can be something interesting. It's not you are not to be too much rigid. I don't know if it's the right word to think only this is good, this is not good. It depends from
Yeah.
what you want to achieve, what kind of effects you want to use. For example, for me, cauliflower are very important. I use them for all the walls, for all the surfaces, because give an idea of something is ruined. So it's very good, and it's not, very often it's not so easy to also to manage it, to use it in control it, the cauliflower in the right way. So yes,
So we can use it to our advantage. If,
absolutely.
yes. Thank you so much. Cauliflower. What is the cauliflower? It's those effects when there comes a drop of water and there's these. Yeah, how would you describe it,
A
Pascalino?
cauliflower is when you have some pigment, some water on your painting, on your paper, and this part of the painting is going dry, but you add near this part or in this part more water. So what happens is that the water is going to on the drier part, and it creates this kind of effect. So you have, if you want to avoid it, you have just to control that all the painting, all the wash is going dry at the same time. Okay, if you have one part is drying faster than the other ones, you will obtain some cauliflowers, maybe in a random way, maybe also in a controlled way, because you can just add some water to obtain this effect.
Thank you so much for that. We have lots of more comments. So loose and beautiful works. Wonderful, beautiful. I love them. Yeah, I love the cauliflowers. Thank you so much for the innovative approach. Thank you so much for this wonderful painting. Thank you. Wonderful. And then we have some learned so much. I've joined, so looking forward to it. Welcome, Hazel. Very interesting approach to watercolor. Thanks a lot from Mercedes. Another word for cauliflowers is blooms. Exactly, really good. Thanks for that, Elizabeth. Thank you thank you for a very interesting lesson. Thanks. So, if you have painted along, or if you want to paint along, then make sure to share your paintings and impressions with us on Instagram and tag us at artefacto_school and hashtag paint_with_artefacto, so we get to see and share and cherish your process. And can you already imagine how you would apply this technique to your next painting? And what inspired you the most? What are your takeaways from this workshop? We've already had some comments. Please share your takeaways and what you learned, what you found interesting, what you want to remember, one of those things in the chat, so we get to see and also learn from each other and inspire each other. And what you saw today is a part of Pasqualino's approach. And if you want to dive deeper, we want to welcome you to join our online course From Dark to Light, a different approach to watercolor landscape by Pasqualino Fracasso. So there are 3 video lessons here, 3 final scenes in the unique author style, and also you can add individual written feedback if you choose the premium plan. There's also a final project, which is your own painting, so that you really make sure to make this your own and use this in your own approach and on your own subjects. So here are the lessons of the course. We have the introduction, we have early morning in Padua, we have Alpine Village, Mediterranean visions, and then a conclusion and a creative task. So you get to take this wherever you want. And these are the paintings that you will be painting in this course with Pasqualino. And our mission is to offer you a unique learning experience here, and that you will get more freedom in your painting process and feel that you get to break the rules and that you get to find new alternative ways of painting. So here you will learn how to simplify landscape and paint from shapes and impressions rather than from objects, and also to build strong compositions and reduce unnecessary detail, and also discover your personal artistic style through experimental techniques. You can find your personal style, your personal way of painting. That is a very short quote from Pasqualino. And let's just see how that works. So this course is made up from pre-recorded video lessons that are stored on Artefacto's learning platform. And you will have lifetime access if you join us during this launch. And there is a 24/7 access to the lessons, so you can access them from whatever device, wherever you are, as long as you have a device and internet connection. And if you're currently experiencing any buffering, that is because this is being live streamed, which is more sensitive. So that will not be the case for the course itself. And also, if it's difficult to keep up now when you cannot pause, that will not be the case with the course as well, because then of course you can pause it, you can go back and watch it in a pace that works for you. We also have a beautiful community, so everyone who joins Artefacto gets to take part in a WhatsApp community that is moderated by a dedicated professional community manager and our support team. We also have the option of written individual feedbacks on your finished works by a professional curator. And the curator has also formal education in fine art and is professionally trained in how to provide feedback and critique, is super supportive, and also a professional watercolor artist. You will also receive a certificate of completion if you join the premium plan, and you can choose which of these that you want. So the standard plan includes all of the lessons that we walked you through earlier, so these 3 different scenes, and you have lifetime access to the video lessons. And when you choose to join the premium plan instead, you will, on top of this, also get a certificate of completion when you have completed this, because we want you to feel inspired to go through with all of the lessons and really make that change and learn these new things. And also you will get the individual written feedback by our professional curator within 75 days after purchasing. And another bonus for all plans are Articoins, which is an internal currency that it's an artificial currency that you can use in our special store called Artist Store. And the more Articoins you have, the more products you can choose from, brochures, lessons, workshops, etc. We also have a special bonus, an additional bonus for the premium plan, which is a lesson called Layering Light, Mountain in Watercolor. Pasqualino, could you share briefly what this lesson is about?
Yes, this is a lesson about mountains. There's a very mountains out. The sunset is mountains of Alps near me. We are Mont Blanc, and I think it's very interesting because also in this case I use very strong color. I work. You can see how I create the layered rocks on the mountains. I create the clouds. So I think it's it's something different from the other ones, and can be very interesting if you like to paint this kind of subjects. And so I will work on transparencies, but also on opaque colors, because it's one of my characteristics.
Thank you for that. And as I mentioned previously, there are 30 spots available on the premium plan because of the live feedback or the individual written feedback. And a reminder is that you don't have to paint exactly what you see. You can translate that to include also what you feel. And the button to join is below the screen, so you can scroll down and click that one. And let's mention the advantages of online learning. One of the things is that we get to take part and learn from the people that we admire and feel inspired by from all over the world, such as Pasqualino is in northern Italy. We can sit wherever we are and see what he's doing from our own computers. And it's several times cheaper than in the studio, especially when we count in the travel. And you can make it work with your life and your schedule. You also get to connect with people from all around the world, as you've already discovered today. And that's the same thing when we join the course. You will see people upload their final works, and you can cheer each other on there and continue this sense of community and deepen that even more. And everything you need to join and learn is a computer or some kind of device, internet connection, and of course art materials, so you can follow along and paint along. And only for live participants, if you join us while we're still having this conversation, there is this additional 10% off. So these are the prices that are active on the platform. If you click the button right now, and the button to join the course is below the screen. And so make sure, if you want to join us and if you want to learn more from Pasqualino, make sure to do that now when we have the discount and the bonuses. And especially if you feel inspired to really learn these things. And let's take a quick look at how you pay. So if you're new to Artefacto, this might be a question that you have. So when you press the button, you will come to this page. Let me just reload this one so it's active. So you will come here and you can read more. you can also just click take part in the course and you will come to this part of the page. And apparently, for some reason, for me, these are the prices right now. And I, of course, would definitely encourage, yeah, here you can see that automatically the additional 10% is applied. So here you can fill out your name, your email address, and your phone number, and then click proceed to payment. And when you get to this one, you will have other options. And if you feel that you want to take part of those other options, you can add those to your order. And you can also press no thanks if that's what you prefer. And then you can choose to pay via bank card or PayPal, whatever your preference is. And then just click continue and fill out your information. And once you have done that, once you click pay, you will receive an email with access to the course so that you can get started straight away. And then you will have lifetime access, so you can go back whenever you want and continue learning with Pasqualino. And just to make you feel that this is a safe thing for you to do, we also offer a guarantee. So if after a couple of lessons, within a couple of weeks after purchase, you realize that this is not what you need to get to that next level for you, just write us an email and you will get your money back. And I will make sure to read the takeaways that are already in the chat. If you have something else you want to share, like one quick sentence from what you have learned today, please share that in the chat. So if you want to master a new way of seeing and painting landscapes through bold shapes, lifting and opaque and transparent layers, even if you're used to a traditional watercolor approach, then please feel super welcome to join the course. Now it's time for the Q&A, and I'm gonna start by just looking up some of the questions that we received earlier on, and then I will take a look at the chat because we have received quite a lot of questions. And let me see what the first ones are. Just a moment. We have, if you would have painted the sky with the blue, like a blue sky, would you have done that? And we can see that in this one, you actually do paint the sky. Would you have done that before painting the other layers or at the end?
At the end, because I love my approach is not to make something too much realistic, and I think also to leave the sky that is connecting over the buildings, over the other elements of the landscape can be something interesting. So I always give this advice to my students. Try different approaches, okay? Also to make something after can be also interesting, as interest as make something more traditional. In this case, I could also make the blue sky after. And could be very, very good because it's not to give, you have not to give the right idea of the sky is far. No, it's just a color that you put in your graphic impact. So yes, I would choose this kind of solution after the buildings to mix the sky with the clouds.
Thank you for that. And then we had some questions about your color choices when it comes to staining versus non-staining, opaque
Yeah.
versus transparent. We had a question, do you avoid staining pigments? But I also heard that you sometimes consciously use staining pigments. And staining means that they get stuck on the paper and you can't remove them all of the way. What would you say to that? When do you use staining and when do you avoid staining colors?
When I use staining color because there are some nuances, some pigments that are important in the painting. So I have to use the staining color. But anyway, I have to think that if I use this color, I can't remove it. So I can use it at the end, for example, or in a wash that I can say, yes, this is a good wash. I know that this value I won't be able to change it, but it's okay like this.
Yeah.
Okay. And like transparent color, or also opaque color, on the contrary, I can use it very often, because if I want to remove color, opaque color, they are easier to remove. So it depends what I want to, what kind of effect I want to achieve.
And then just mentioning that when you say opaque colors, you still mean watercolor colors, watercolor paints, and not gouache, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Always watercolor color, because gouache is a little bit different. It's not the same. It's more difficult to remove gouache color than watercolor.
Yeah. Wonderful. And then we had a question from Caroline. Do you add something to the water to make it even easier? There are these lifting mediums that we can use. Is that something that you do?
Uh, no, in watercolors, no. Then there are, I make also some mixed media paintings, and in this case, I use also other materials, but it's not a watercolor, because I change everything. I mix colors with other materials. I prepare the paper in different ways, so it's something different from watercolors.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And then we had a question regarding the heat gun. Do you use it to
Yeah.
dry or move paint? Because we could see that it had the energy that it made the pigments, the
Yeah.
water move. Is that something that you use to your advantage to move that? Or is that just something that you are okay with?
Both. If you saw, I don't use the air dryer, but I prefer the heat gun, because I can also move the color. So sometimes, if I want to create some particular texture or some particular effects, I use the heat gun to move the color, right? To Because it creates something different. But then with the heat gun, it has a small. How can I say? I don't know. I don't have the. It's not big. The flow of the air, so I can just to move or just to dry only a little part of the painting. But yes, I can use the both effects.
I'm just gonna see what has happened in the chat since last I spoke. Ah, okay. Thank you so much for excellent demonstration, pure poetry. I'd really enjoyed your painting and sharing your philosophy, inspiring tips on how to sketch and compose paintings. Thank you, Pasqualino. Enjoyed your painting style. Flora has joined the premium one. Welcome, Flora. Can't wait. Ah, it's been great taking your courses in the past. Thank you. Beautiful colors. Thank you. Interesting technique. Join the course, Carrie. Welcome, Carrie. Looking forward to it. Thank you. Oh, Manuela says, yeah, Pasqualino. That yeah, she likes that I call you Pascalino and not Pasqualino. But I'm Italian, she says. Deb says, my takeaway from this lesson is to not sweat the details, to aim for realism. That's a big one. Wonderful, Deb. And Galen writes, thank you for this course. I only have cotton paper at home, so I watched today. I ordered paper and will paint tomorrow. Oh, and I ordered the premium course mostly so that I can get the mountain and watercolor lesson. Looking forward to continued learning. What paper was used? Andrea, we have actually the information about that here, so I'm going to type that in the chat so you can read more on that. And now we have a question about the process and the thinking process from Mohambir. Which regions receive the initial dark color and then the second color? Is it pre-planned or do you decide that as you go? I think that's a great question to understand your thought process when you interpret a reference photo. So what would you say to that?
Yes, before to start, I always make some sketches. I make the sketches are very important to make value composition, but also chromatic composition. So I make a lot of sketches about all the combination of colors I can make. Not working on the main draw on the main yes picture, but just to work on the of the space of the different colors. For example, a big space to a strong color, a dark color, a small space to a very saturated color, and I try all these combinations. So for me, it's very important to make this kind of study. And then during the painting, you can change, you can add, because you follow also your the mood, you follow some inspirational elements that happens during the painting, but it's always important to have a vision of the final result, for the value composition and also for the chromatic composition.
So there are some parts that we skipped today.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, because I always try to make this work with a workshop, because you need time to see different solution about this.
And get to know the subject and get to know what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. We had a question from Trina. Do you have a reference photo at hand while you're painting? Do you always have that? And did you have that today?
Sorry, if I have a reference photo.
Yeah, if you watch the reference when you paint.
No, no, not ever. I try my best painting are to make a lot of sketches and studies, and then to paint without a reference,
Oh, so you
because
paint with the sketches instead of the reference.
yes, but also you can also avoid the sketches, everything, because you have all everything in your mind, and you
Ah,
are more free about your
okay.
solution. You are more secure about your brush strokes. So the how can I say, the risk when you paint with the photo is always to be too much illustrative, too much near close to the photo. On the
Yeah.
contrary, if you leave everything outside, you work only with you have in your mind, I think you can achieve the best result. So
Ah.
this is a next step and a next level for about my work.
Thank you. We have a question from Sabrina. If you could share the final piece, how it turned out.
Yes,
If you could hold it up, perhaps. Or if you want to switch the camera.
yes. Wait. I can I just make the zoom. The zoom. Wait.
Thank you so much, Pasqualino. Unfortunately, I have to pop up when I speak, so now I'm back here. That was so interesting. And we had a question from Francesca in the beginning. How do you deal with the posts in the foreground? Do you eliminate them or add them? And here we can see you have definitely chosen to not add all of the small details. Is there anything you want to share about what you chose to leave out in this painting?
Yes. For example, in this case, to put the people, it was very interesting, but you have to, I think, to put them on the right way. For me, in this case, it was just to give an idea of the main silhouette of the city. So it's always what you want to 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 bring to the attention of the viewer, for example, for me it was in this case it was very important the the red stripe on the building, the roof of the building, the windows, because they give the idea of the building, and the lines of the perspective that we can obtain through the shadow, through the building on the left side, and from the line on the street. So everyone can be touched by different things. But I think it's important, because from this painting we can make I don't know 10, 20 different paintings, because every time you can focus on different elements. So it's a choice, but you have always to focus on your choice. What do you like of this scene? Well, if you like this and this, try to focus only on these things, and then if you want, you can add something. So for me it was important just to give this idea of the silhouette and the shadow of the on this urban landscape.
Thank you so much for sharing those inner thought process and giving us the choice to dare to choose, because when we choose one thing we can also choose to not focus on other things. I think that was super valuable. And we have many people who have joined us, who have written in. Irene has written in, signed up, thanks for the inspiring lesson. I like the loose technique, simply beautiful. And other comments about how helpful it can be to paint without the reference photo. And Judith says, thank you for sharing your technique of silhouettes and shadows. I'm looking forward to trying this method of seeing. So huge thanks to you, Pasqualino, for sharing all of this during this workshop. And thanks for those of you who were here today with us and who shared your questions and your takeaways and just made this happen and made this beautiful event that where we feel that we get to connect with people from all around the world and just focus on this together. So, oh, Agnes, welcome, Agnes. And Jackie writes, excellent technique. Going to dig out my cellulose paper and give it a go. Love the looseness. So huge thanks, Pasqualino. That was an honor to spend this time with you.
Thank you very much, and bye to all the world, all the people from all over the world. Thank you, Anna, for everything, and I hope you have the fun to this lesson.
Wonderful.
It's
And of course,
part of my
if anyone wants to continue exploring this with
yes.
Pasqualino, you know what to do. And have a wonderful rest of your day, and hope that you feel inspired and use this inspiration the next time you pick up your watercolor paints.